think the biggest challenge I see is the system is not fit for purpose anymore. That the system is set for the 18th century, which is when the manufacturing age, when we wanted people to be in factories, to be employees. See, employees have to turn up on time, they have to do as they're told, they have to do it to a certain standard, and they clock out at the end of the day. The challenge with that is, and school, by the way, is still the same. The challenge with that is that in the 21st century, the futurists are telling us in the next 10 years, 40% of our 5-year-olds in our school will have to be self-employed.
The education system was set up purely to get people to comply to requirements, which was very useful in factory settings. Do this, start here, pay attention, I'm the leader, you're the follower. And I feel like that's bred a generation or generations of people that are really ridiculously compliant, which is kind of useful on many levels, but also really, really problematic as well.
In a system that's relevant, that's agile and effective of the needs of our teenagers, and allowing schools the resources to be innovative is probably the big challenge.
That's a very interesting question. I mean, the current challenges is facing an ever evolving and changing world and trying to keep up with it. Trying to anticipate, what are the challenges that the next generation of young people are going to be facing. And it's changing so quickly that, it's hard to keep up with. That's just the reality of it. And so how do you prepare young people and ultimately young leaders to face the challenges that are ever evolving?
Well, I think there are many, but the thing that is close to my heart is that learning should be personalized, it should be individualized, because we are all uniquely, perfectly imperfect geniuses. So we all have a different style of learning, we have different talents, we have different interests, and learning should be, education should be delivered in a way that really ignites the genius in each individual. And to ignite the genius in somebody, it's really, your genius is your uniqueness. What makes you different is what makes you a genius. And, we know this in leadership and in the entrepreneurial world, that, a strength-based focus on leadership and collaborative learning, collaborative leadership is a real key to success. Well, education is no different. So, we are, like I say, individuals. And if we can tap into what's unique and what's special and what's different about every individual person, then we're going to bring out the best in them.
What I believe we need students to create and to develop this love of learning. That's our job. And I think this notion of saying, oh, what's the stuff? It's not the stuff. That's going to change. No matter how much we think we have a crystal ball right now, that will not be the content that's most relevant to the students who are starting school now and coming out in 12 years' time. So that notion of develop a love of learning, so that as they go forward, they believe they can learn, they want to learn, that's going to set them up best in life.
Teacher workload is very high, and I think some of that can be self-driven, and we might talk about that a little bit as well. But when you get a step up from that, like as a team leader, I was aware of the increase in workload. And then for assistant principals and deputy principals who also have a class, that workload's just insane. Being a principal, actually, that focus shifts so much to administration that, somewhere in that process, learning can get lost, or the focus on the learner can get lost. And I think that's one of the things that really concerns me. There's so much going on that teachers don't have time to assimilate new research, and the things that can do to assist pedagogy and assist them being really successful in with their class and with their learner achievement. So I think that finding a way to enable that is really important, because I think that teachers don't know what they don't know. and don't have time to go looking for it. So I think that's a big deal as well.
The education system is still predominantly reflective of the industrial era, where we had to have all the students learn how to be not just cooperative, but compliant, so that they wouldn't mess up the factory lines. And we're still expecting compliance. And there's more and more pushback from the students who are now learning online and love it. And they're looking at some of the ways of learning at school and are thinking, this isn't relevant to me. So it's really time that the education system got updated in a number of ways. And that is my focus in what I'm doing now with teachers. And I think when I mean learning online, I'm not only talking about the work they get from their school teachers. I'm also talking about self-directed learning that students wouldn't even call it learning, but they're learning tons online and, in their spare time.
I think the number one challenge is that our global education system is no longer fit for purpose. I don't believe that it's creating and creating the kinds of leaders that we need in the 21st century, the kinds of people, the kinds of humans we need. I don't believe that our young people are leaving our education systems fit for purpose for this century. I would love to see more opportunities for our young people to be in circle with each other, to know each other, to understand themselves, to ask more questions and be an inquiry with the world, rather than being presented with answers in our education system.
We're still trying to educate our young people for a world that actually doesn't exist anymore. I don't believe that the skills that are being taught in the standard school systems are ones that are really helping young people to be the best versions of themselves that they can be, not necessarily lighting them up, getting them passionate about what they're good at, what they want to be doing out in the world, how they want to make a difference. And maybe not enough scope for creativity and really pushing the boundaries. I feel like we're still trying to push something that is an old-fashioned, outdated model.
In one word, I think inflexibility might be one. It was once described to me as in the education system as a big beast to steer and to move. And I guess it is when it's such a critical organization, and then I follow Nathan Wallace a lot, and I've had actually Nathan Wallace is neuroscientific educationalist in that, so I do neuroscience as well for adults, and he talks about the first 1,000 days, and thereafter I talk about probably our school years and further on from there, and it really does set us up for the rest of our life. All of us have got a memory. And most of that memory is made in our early years, and it forms who we are, our personality traits rather than personality types. So those are gone these days, it's traits. So all of our traits come from our early years and from our friends and those around us. So it's really important that we get it right. And at the moment, things aren't quite right from, I guess, building resilience in young.
There's so many challenges. And yet I want to preface this by saying there are also a lot of beautiful things that are happening in our system of education. The innovation, not only during this time of transition to distance and hybrid and all of the things that we're experiencing now, but it's also just the innovation that's been happening over the years. There's a lot of amazing educators doing incredible work right now. One of the biggest challenges is that the current system of education and the way that things are done globally, and definitely here where I live in the US, is that the structure was not built for today's era. And it definitely wasn't built for tomorrow. It wasn't built for 22nd century learning either. And so when we look at the evolution and what needs to change, we need to start bringing the human back in. Because in education, we're in the people business. We're not in the data business. We're not in the structure business, and we're in the people business. This is about humans, and it's really about igniting the inner genius, not only in our children but in our educators. And I think we miss the boat when we're looking at the system because we're looking for the data to prove things. And data is very useful, but to connect as humans first. I think that's one of the biggest things that we're missing in education right now.